One topic I think we have to address, and it doesn't pertain to Rutgers football, but it's national news. Let's talk about Lane Kiffin and what happened with his decision to go to LSU from Ole Miss. What are you guys' thoughts on that?
I'm gonna go first and talk about it. My apologies. It's just I've been looking at it for the last couple of weeks, whether it's on this show or on my sports radio show here at LIU, the Sports Shark Tank. We've been talking about where is Lane Kiffin going to go, and just the enigma that is Lane Kiffin from the come from behind, basically the comeback story of the ages when it comes to college football coaches, to now Marty Smith, an ESPN reporter, having to go through the depths of hell just to get this interview done with Lane. Like, I don't know if y'all were able to see the clip of the interview, but he had to go to some abandoned lot in the middle of Mississippi just to talk to Lane Kiffin about his decision. It felt like one of the odder decisions on television since, I would say, LeBron, when he made his decision back in 2010 to go to South Beach. And it kind of had the same implications about that. But in hindsight, we saw what in 2023 happened to Florida State. A 13-0 team, won the ACC championship even without Jordan Travis, and the committee did not let them in. They didn't even consider them a top 4 team in the nation at that time to even make the playoffs.
Yeah, very messed up.
What are they going to do now to an Ole Miss team that is a one loss, not going to make the conference championship in the SEC? They're not going to Atlanta since Alabama won the Iron Bowl and they punched their ticket into Atlanta to face up against Georgia again. And now with Lane Kiffin's news on the issue, with how he talked to athletic director Keith Carter about Keith saying it's either you stay here or you go to LSU, you can't coach here no more. Because you kind of understand both sides, because the AD is trying to prevent the potential of not only Lane Kiffin taking players from Ole Miss from the inside out while trying to prepare for the playoffs. It also gives him, I would say, more inside edge on whenever they got to play against LSU, when LSU has to play against Ole Miss again, because they typically play each other once a year. But now, Lane Kiffin's not going to be there for this college football playoff run. And they're in a situation that I can see the committee doing what they did to Florida State back in 2023. A team that's a one loss at this time without their head coach, who, to be completely honest, if it wasn't for Lane Kiffin, they're not in this situation now as it is to be an 11-win team. They're going to most likely miss the playoffs, and I'm going to be surprised, genuinely, because the players that worked their butt off to get to this point, to even get Ole Miss to the relevancy that it is in Oxford, to even be a top 10 team in the country, despite one tough loss to Georgia, in which Trinidad Chambliss played good for most of that game, and there were only it was a 1-score loss. So they were just as much in it as anybody. And in a situation where Ole Miss has the offensive opportunity with Lane Kiffin at the helm to be competitive with any team that they face in the potential college football playoffs, seeing that all go to waste because Lane Kiffin got a better job at LSU, and to be completely honest, LSU is the better job. It's better for Lane Kiffin because Lane doesn't have to do all the excess work. He doesn't like recruiting. All he wants to do is call the plays and lead the team to success. LSU has that situated. They got their defensive coordinator coming back. They got Ed Orgeron looking like the potential head of recruiting in Louisiana. As we've seen, Ed Orgeron is a really good recruit. He's a really good recruiter. He's been one of the great recruiters in regards to finding guys in Louisiana. Louisiana is a college football rich state, and a lot of good high school prospects come from the boot. There's no argument about that. So Lane Kiffin is at the better job. But I just want to add real fast, because I'm sorry I've been long-winded about this. Florida got screwed.
They still got a good coach, though, right? That's no shade to Tulane.
The thing is, for Florida, going from Billy Napier was just in the same situation Summerall was in. He made a Louisiana Group of 5 school a 10-win team. Napier did that with the Raging Cajuns back in 2021. And 2022. It feels like deja vu all over again, and Summerall got paid half of what Kiffin was getting paid because, to be honest, Florida thought Kiffin was going to be assigned the deal 2 months ago. That's why they got rid of Billy Napier to begin with. LSU was able to say, no, well, if we put them together, we know Lane's going to come over here. And they did that. And now Florida's got screwed. And to be completely honest, Auburn might have just dodged the bullet as well because they were most likely going to get Summerall if Florida got Kiffin.
Yeah, and Jason, I mean, Donovan, too. I think that you guys hit the nail in the coffin. That Florida, in my opinion, was never getting Lane. It didn't feel like a good fit. Nobody thought outside of Florida it was a good fit. When it comes, you talked about the job, and I agree that LSU is the better job for Lane long term. But I think it was a little bit close-minded that the deal had to be accepted before the season was over. And I don't think Lane considered that, because of how lucrative the offer was and the university's history. I don't think he considered that maybe I have enough leverage that I can say, screw your deadline. You give me until the end of this year, no matter what, and then I'll consider your job. And I think they would have given him until the end of the year if he pushed the boundary. And honestly, that's what you're supposed to do with a job. You're supposed to finish the job you start and you work so hard to do. So I don't believe that Lane handled this well at all, but I've made that very apparent. Now, what has been sort of troubling me is I've looked at what Nick Saban has said. I've looked at what other guys have said about Lane's situation, and I think it's true. It's a bigger deal for college football than it is about Lane. Now, Lane didn't handle it extremely well. He actually has posted 19 things on his Instagram story defending his decision in the past 24 hours. So clearly there's some room there for a little bit of indecisiveness about was it morally right. I'm not saying I wouldn't take the job because of the money. I'm just saying that it feels like the issue is bigger. It feels like the issue, and I'm hoping it can be looked at in the offseason, is you cannot be able to poach a coach during the season. I think it should be treated the same way as tampering with players. It should be treated the same way as a player wanting to be released from his contract. If it's a mutual decision, great. If not, you wait until the end of the year and you make it known to your front office, hey, I want to consider this other job. But you do not go about it in the middle of the season. And as long as they're allowed to do that, it's going to keep happening. But I think that college football as a whole has to take a look at this.
Yeah, and I think there's a few things I'd say about this situation. Number one, about Lane Kiffin himself. I don't think it's appropriate to judge Lane Kiffin. He has a family, and like everyone else, he wants to go to the jobs that are going to give him the most chance to be successful, namely to win a national title. Now, the question is, did Lane Kiffin handle it correctly? And I think this is where it gets in that gray area, because there are some people that are going to feel that sense of loyalty to Ole Miss, and that are going to feel like, I built a program up that traditionally is not very good into national title contenders this year. So what I'm building here at Ole Miss doesn't necessarily make LSU a better job. Just because LSU has 3 national titles in the last 25 years doesn't mean that he's going to a better job. What he's going to face is a tremendous amount of pressure. And I also think he's going to have that regret of what could have been at Ole Miss had he stayed and continued building a program. Because if you want to have a legacy, the best legacy you have is when you build a program that's down into a title contender like Saban did when he came here in 2007. Now, LSU's also got to worry about Lane's loyalty to them. At Alabama, at Tennessee, he has shown that, he is looking out for the next best opportunity. And while I won't judge that, I will say that, he is a certain type of person. There are other people who would have said, I want to be loyal to what I've started here. And when he's defending his decision as much as he is, that suggests to you that he feels the need to, because he knows that the way this happened was messy. But let's look at it from this perspective. How else could Lane have handled it? First of all, the NCAA allows this, number one.
Yeah.
And I guarantee you that LSU said to him, look, we want you. We're not waiting until the season's over, so the door's going to close. You got to make a decision now. So they probably put him in a very difficult position. So I'm not going to judge him for that. But ultimately what I will say is I would consider some people, including myself, not that I matter, just different.
Yes, you do. You matter.
Well, different from Lane Kiffin in terms of the values I hold. I would have been loyal to Ole Miss because I wouldn't have thought LSU was necessarily a step up, but I would have also thought about the kids, the players, and what we were building here. And when you build something special, it's really, really, in my opinion, more of an accomplishment than going to a program like LSU and doing what Ed Orgeron did, Les Miles did, and Nick Saban did. And I believe he made the wrong decision, but I do wish him the best of luck, and I do not judge him.
I got two things just to counteract with that. The first thing is, Adam, you were mentioning Lane Kiffin saying that he's always going to look for the next best opportunity. What school would be the next best opportunity for Lane outside of LSU?
I mean, at
Alabama.
this position,
Alabama.
With this position, though, with this amount of power and money, it's tough.
If Kalen DeBoer leaves Alabama in 2 to 3 years, you can bet that is Lane Kiffin is going to go to
LSU is really good, though. Maybe they're okay this year, but
not Alabama.
They have a really good recruiting pipeline in Louisiana, and you got to understand, Nick Saban said it himself. He would have loved to stay at LSU. He said that he would love to be what he made at Alabama at LSU because LSU had the same type of opportunities, even more. And I completely understood why Lane left. And the second thing I want to add is, did that decision post look like a commitment post to y'all?
Did what?
Did Lane's official decision, the post that he put on Twitter, did it look like a commitment post?
It looked like a very long commitment post. And also, my one-liner, my zinger, if you will, is Lane Kiffin's legacy would be most amplified if he were to carry Ole Miss from the trenches into a championship, and it was possible.
Oh,
that's my point.
Yeah.
And guess what? Lane Kiffin, if Alabama comes calling, Lane Kiffin will go to Alabama because that's the job he really wants. And LSU is going to watch that happen if DeBoer leaves in 2 to 3 years, which who knows what will happen. But I just feel like if you're a college football coach and you are going to have the first playoff game in Oxford and you are building a program that is 11-1 and is getting great recruits and from the portal, and you can build something that no one else has, that's the best job in the world rather than going someplace where they've already won 3 national titles. But you know what? It just seems to me that creating something from the bottom up is better. Now, I didn't expect Lane to be loyal, and no one should judge him. Again, I wish him the best. But I will tell you that the committee is not going to put Ole Miss out of the playoffs because Lane is a coach, not a player. He's not. They're
going to.
Dude,
if they don't do that, it makes 2023 look even more stupid.
And it was stupid.
Jordan Travis was a quarterback. He was the heart of that offense. Lane Kiffin
is Lane Kiffin not the heart of this team as a head coach?
No, listen, because he's not on the field.
If you're Ole Miss, God forbid you lose to number 4 Georgia by 8 points, and that's your only loss all year. And 2023 was stupid, just like how it would be stupid for Ole Miss.
2023 was not stupid.
It was so stupid. I get the
they won a conference championship without Travis.
They went undefeated.
We just witnessed last year Carson Beck get injured in the championship game, and Georgia was still able to win.
Did you see how they played in the conference championship? Florida State, they looked awful.
Does that matter when you have a conference champion?
That was after the playoffs.
They weren't one of the 12 best teams without Travis.
They didn't lose.
One of the 12 best.
Is Ole Miss
undefeated? They went undefeated. Who cares if their schedule is easy? If you're a Power 4 conference team, you go undefeated. You do what you can with your schedule. That was
not
stupid.
The same team.
I know they wouldn't have won the championship, but that was stupid.
I just want to ask Adam, and then I'm going to ask you, Gabe. Is Ole Miss still a top 12 team in the country, even without Lane Kiffin coaching?
Yes.
I don't know, but they should be considered for the. They should not consider
lose their starting quarterback.
Even if they're not a top 12 talent, they should still be in the playoffs without the top 12 talent because of how
Lane Kiffin is the offensive guru for this team. It would feel like, in NFL standards, it would feel like the Rams trying to play in the playoffs without Sean McVay.
Don't think that Lane Kiffin is such a genius that other coaches do not have enough of a grasp on that offense. Okay, that they cannot shepherd them. They are one of the 12 best teams. Florida State was not without Travis, and that's the distinction.
Plus, you got to understand what the players are feeling right now. They got to feel. Do you still see Ole Miss playing as hard as it is, knowing that even with how the contract is, let's say Ole Miss makes it to the national championship and wins, that would mean Lane Kiffin still gets paid by Ole Miss.
They're not considering that. They're considering their own names. They're considering their NIL deals for next year, their draft eligibility for this year. What they're considering is this coach left us, but he's not out there on the field. They've had this talk already.
I wish to be a fly in the wall on that Sunday discussion.
Me too.
Yeah, one thing I want to point out too is, you know what, on this show, we debate each other, and we have sometimes heated debates because we respect each other, and that gives different perspectives, unlike some other shows. And that's the positive of this show, and I hope people appreciate that, so that you can ultimately form your own opinions. That's why our fantastic co-hosts Donovan and Gabe add so much to the show. So I want to thank you guys for that.
Yeah, I mean, I love these kind of debates because we're here talking Rutgers, and I love Rutgers University, its program, and its players. But getting a chance to talk about these national topics, it's a nice, refreshing twist.
It's an important topic because it honestly affects the entire college football world just due to how coaches can just leave in an instant and it can affect the program, just like what happened with Ole Miss. We saw coaches outside of basketball. Rick Pitino even tweeted about it, saying how, let's say if I left St. John's in March, does this team still have, is that even correct for the team? Even if is it correct for the league to be able to deal with that? And NCAA has an issue on their hands because, like you said before, Gabe, you're talking about how this is basically they ban tampering with players, and they should be considered as tampering with players. Yeah. Typically, when a coach leaves to a different school, the players come with. We saw what happened with Kalen DeBoer. Once he went to Alabama, a lot of the players that he was just with runner-up Washington, they came to Alabama with him the next year.
Yeah,
and most likely we're going to see Trinidad Chambliss in a LSU jersey because he's been tweeting out the Trinidadian and Tobago flag every single time he mentions LSU and mentions LSU quarterbacks. So most likely that's going to happen. The same way that it's going to happen with the USF coach that's going to Auburn. Byron Brown is most likely going to become an Auburn Tiger as well because the players typically follow their coaches. It happens in all aspects of transfer portal or in all aspects of college football. We've seen it just this year as well with Diego Pavila going to Vanderbilt and his offensive coordinator being from New Mexico State coming with him. So this should be on the same level as tampering with players because players are going to be involved regardless.
Yeah, if you want to talk even closer to the Big Ten, we just got Troy Hune, who was committed to Penn State. He's now at Virginia Tech. Wow. And he was another player that was possibly considering Rutgers too. 6 days ago, ex-Penn State commit Mickens, he was joining James Franklin at Virginia Tech. I think he's got 2 or 3 others. So even in cases where they don't get poached, but they get fired and then hired once again,